Hello, I'm Greg Hrutkay, Hrutkay Mods, and do you by any chance remember this system right here? Yes, this is the world's fastest mid-2012 13-inch unibody MacBook non-Retina. In the world, it's the world's fastest. And you guys might remember, we started this series with this video right here. That was filmed over 4.5 years ago in December of 2018 when I sent this off to Collin. Our original intent was to make this 100 megahertz faster than the fastest one you could get from Apple. Yeah, we were going to, instead of putting a 1.29 gigahertz i7 processor in it, we were going to put a 3.0 gigahertz, which had came out about a month after these systems were introduced. We got that CPU, we tried to put it in, it didn't happen. Why was that? Well, that was because this CPU that we were going to put into this system, well, first off, it took Collin a long time. This took 4.5 years for a reason. 4.5 years ago in 2018, Collin had no real equipment that could actually pull the CPU off and put it back on reliably. And we did this, and he did it multiple times, and he finally gave up for a while because he just could not get the CPU to go on properly. And when he finally got it to go on, years later, we found a new problem. And the new problem was, even though it was the same CPU, more or less, just 100 megahertz faster than the one from the one Apple sold, it just didn't work. And there was no microcode in the BIOS/EFI ROM stuff. There was nothing in there, no microcode for it. So it wouldn't work, it just wouldn't recognize. But that particular CPU was also on the Retina MacBook Pro from, I think, early 2013. And he had a early Retina MacBook Pro laying around, so he pulled the ROM chip off of it and put it on that board, and it still didn't do anything. And it would have been weird because we would have had a hybrid non-Retina Retina with an optical drive bay, and it may have never worked in the first place. But we tried that, and in fact we tried that last year when I was over at his house. Well, while I was also over at his house, he discovered that there was a type of i7 which would actually fit the pinout on this, and it was a quad core, which was awesome. And essentially, it would make this into a mid-range, mid-2012 Mac Mini hardware-wise. It'd be a 2.3 gigahertz i7 quad core. This is the first and only currently mid-2012 MacBook Pro 13-inch quad core. And this is a true full-on quad core. This is 4 cores, 8 threads of i7 goodness. It's really awesome. And well, this is still the same exact system from 4.5 years ago from that video I just showed you. The only thing that's changed is the serial number because he nuked that board doing all the experimentation we had to do to figure it out. So this has a new board in it for like the 3rd or 4th time in its life. Long story on this, I basically built this thing out of parts so I could have the cheapest one I could build at the time when these things were still going for a lot of money. So this is a big amalgamation of different mid-2012 13 inches. But it works, and it's the same exact system that we built in 2018 down to the SSDs and the install. This is the same install. In fact, it says right here, it hasn't been backed up to the time machine in 1,666 days, which might be a bad omen when you think about it, but still. This is the same install. In fact, this isn't even a fully updated copy of Mojave, because Mojave was the current operating system when this came out. This is like 10.14.3 or something like that. So I still haven't updated it. This is the exact same system minus the logic board. And essentially it's the same logic board, so it's just a different serial number. You get the idea now. It took a lot to do this. And we're going to go over it today and fix some of the things we had problems with. Like he managed to lose one of my RAM modules, which isn't that big of a deal, but this still has the same RAM in it that I installed in that video, minus one stick. Well, I've got an extra set. We're going to max this back out to 16 gigs of RAM, and we'll do some benchmarks. And then what I really want to do is try this on it. This is a Vega 56, which of course was one of the best cards you could get for a Mac Pro back in 2018. And I got one. This was affordable best cards. And this was more or less a workstation card that AMD tried the Vega series. It just didn't really pan out. But this is a Vega 56, the midline of the Vegas, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time since I've played with this one. This one actually came from my 4.1 Mac Pro. How are we going to put this in this? Well, I've got a Thunderbolt Razor box down there that will allow us to do that and experiment with this. I also have a monitor I want to try on and see if it works. And yeah, that's going to be neat. But the reason why this may not continue to be the world's fastest, although it is currently, is because Collin originally wanted and tried to talk me into converting this into an NVMe MacBook Pro, which involves taking out the Thunderbolt controller so you can put NVMe in it, which would have been neat. It would have booted faster, been a lot cooler, but I wanted to keep the Thunderbolt for this very reason, because I want to see what it would do. And of course, we won't get full performance out of this card because it's still like a one-time slot through Thunderbolt, plus this is Thunderbolt 1. But we should still get a pretty good experience, and I'm very excited to try this out. So let's start off by getting onto this Mac and showing you the current specs. We'll upgrade it, and then we'll start experimenting with this and see what we can do with it. So anyway, let's get to it. Okay, before we start ripping this thing down, I thought we'd quickly go to the current specs that are in the system. And we'll just go over, close this out real quick. Go over to about this Mac. Maybe, there we go. It's actually running 10.14.2. It's running older than I thought it was. But yeah, as we can see, it says 2.3 gigahertz Intel i7. And if we go to System Report, we can see it says total number of cores is 4, which is really, really awesome. Let's see here. So if we go over to the CPU stats, let's see here. There's every thread, all 8 of them. This is the only system currently in the world like this. So this is the world's fastest. And some backstory on this system before we shut it down is I originally intended to buy this as a traveling editing machine, and then couldn't travel very often and couldn't edit on it because it sat at Collin's for almost 5 years. So we may experiment with some video editing. It's not going to be great on this, especially now, but we'll try it with and without the card. It may not be in this episode, but I do want to experiment a little bit more because this, of course, has dual SSDs in it, I think. Okay, it's got a storage drive. That would have been my scratch drive to load stuff off of. And then it has a 1 terabyte 860 EVO in it, which was a pretty good drive back in 2018. It's a little old now, and well, it'd be better to have even more storage than it has, but oh well. And this also still has a Windows install on it that installed. This has a copy of Windows 10 on it from 2018. It's, I think, 1803 or something like that. It hasn't been updated for that either. I haven't touched this system since I got it back from Collin because I wanted you guys to experience what I experience on it. And yeah, this thing's so old, it still has the Maciac TIFF file on it from 2018. And as we all know, Maciac ended last week as of the time of filming this. And this is the old Yak logo that we had for the first 5 episodes. So this dates this, this laptop by a lot. But anyway, let's set this up to tear down real quick. And we will put in a full 16 gig kit in it. So yeah, there we go. So that should max out the RAM, and then we'll start experimenting with Thunderbolt, which I've never done before, especially on unsupported Mac. So this should be interesting. So let's get to it. So it's time to tear down the system, and well, of course, time lapse this, but let's tear it down and see what we can do in here real quick. And ladies and gentlemen, the inside of the world's fastest mid-2012 MacBook Pro 13-inch. Okay, so let's pull the RAM out. It's a good RAM. In fact, this RAM was brand new. It was built in November 2018, so it was not even a month old when I installed it. It's installed. We'll put the system back together and see where it takes us. All right, it's booted up. Let's make sure it sees the RAM. 16 gigs of DDR3, system report, and memory. It sees them at the right speed. We are set. So now, let's set this up and see if we can figure out how to make it work, because I've never done this before. This is a Razer Thunderbolt 3 enclosure that I bought back in about 2020 or so, and never tried it. I don't know if it works. Yes, I wasted a lot of money to just have it set as a paperweight for about 3 years, but I always wanted to try it on something like a Mac Mini and never got around to filming that. So we're going to give its maiden voyage on this system, but we first have to build it because it's never been built. And we've got my Vega 56 right here that we'll put into here. This thing needs 8-pin ×2, and that's got 8-pin ×2, so in theory it should work. And this system is, like I said, Thunderbolt 3. As we can see here in the ports, if you can see, yeah, you can see that. That's the only port right there, and then there's a power supply. So, how do we plug that into a Thunderbolt 1 system? With a 3-to-2 adapter and a Thunderbolt 2 cable. And then I think we have to patch it, but I'm not 100 on that. It might just work, but usually it doesn't from what I understand. So this, we may have to update Mojave and make it work properly before we try this. We may even have to run it on a different OS. And eventually we will. I have plans for at least another video. So let's build this and see what happens. Okay, it's plugged in. Now we just need to see if it works. Which I don't even know how you do that. I don't know if it'll turn on when you plug in, just to see if the card works. So let's plug it in and see what happens. and turn it. I think it is on. I think it is on. Maybe it needs to have a connection. I hear the power supply. I don't see any fans or anything. Power supply is on. What the heck? Let's just plug it straight into the Mac. See what happens. Hey, the back fan kicked on. Hey, the card kicked on. Well, that's a good start. This may actually work. So we've got the Thunderbolt 3 to 2 adapter, the 2 adapters in the 1 port here. And let's see what it says on about this Mac. System report. Probably won't say anything on graphics. It doesn't. Let's see what, I don't even know, Thunderbolt. Says the Core X from Razer, and it is connected. It does see it, so that's a good sign. I'm going to quickly restart this thing just to see what happens. And of course, I don't think it's going to do anything, but it'd be kind of neat if it did. So let's see what happens. As I expected, restarting it didn't do anything. We're going to put this case together, and I'll figure out how to work with the patches to make it work. If anything, I wonder what would happen if you boot it into Windows. That will be coming up. We'll try that in a bit. I won't touch the Windows partition, and we'll just try the Mac OS partition first and see what happens. So I had to run a script to make everything work. Here's everything set up, by the way. We've got everything in the enclosure there. We've got this connected. And the script is called Purge Wrangler, which has been actually superseded to Kryptonite. But Mojave still works with Purge Wrangler fine. In fact, I didn't even have to update Mojave to make this work. If we go up here now, it will say disconnect the Radeon RX Vega 56. And if we go to about this Mac, it still says Intel Graphics HD 4000 because that's the one we're using mainly right now. But if we go to System Report, it should, in theory, just show up in graphics. And it does. That's cool. So now what can we do with it? Well, let's see. Alright guys, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. This is an LG Ultra Wide that I bought off of Crazy Ken about a year and a half ago when I went up and saw him at his lair. And this is a 34-inch, I think, very widescreen. This was even in one of his videos years and years ago when he first got it. He did a whole video on it. Well, I bought it off of him. It's autographed in the back, and it's running straight off the MacBook Pro right now. So if we zoom in here, there we go. How many 13-inch MacBook Pros do you know that runs a Vega 56? This is really, 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 really neat. And I'll show you. Displays. It tells you everything. It's a 34-inch ultra wide. It's running off the Vega 56, and then we've got the built-in display still running also. I thought, why not? Let's try a metal test on this and see how it goes and see just how good it really is. So let's get to it. Okay, so I already have Geekbench 5 on this system, and I'm not going to show you guys test results and stuff because it's already been covered on the Luke Miani video up here. You should check that out. It goes into further details about the CPU tests and stuff. I just don't feel like I really need to do it again. They already did it for me, which was quite nice of them. But I already have Geekbench 5 on here, and I also have Unigine Valley on here that I will also test. I've already tested to see if it would work, and it does. It works pretty impressively well. But since we already have Geekbench 5 on here, I figured we'd give it a shot and see exactly what happens. So we'll give it a shot, do a compute test and stuff, and see the differences. So let's get to it. So we'll start off with the original CPU, GPU, the graphics, Intel Graphics 4000, and we'll run the compute and see what happens. Okay guys, so this took about 16 minutes to do a metal test, which it didn't even complete, on the HD 4000 graphics. Here is the score. A 96 metal score. It couldn't finish canny, and it couldn't finish stereo matching, or horizon detection, or feature matching. So yeah, it was a huge failure of a test there. So let's see what the Vega does. This should be a big difference. Is it done already? It was awfully fast. Where's the pop-up for it? Well, I guess Geekbench kind of crashed. I'm not sure what's going on, so give me 1 second here. So, for some reason, Geekbench 5 can't do a metal test on this, but it will do the OpenCL test. We'll cancel out the other results and do an OpenCL test on this, which I don't want to do, but as you saw, the metal test was actually running very quick, and I believe it was going that quick because the card would ramp up and down because it was actually doing computing. So I don't know why it's not doing it, but OpenCL works. So let's try OpenCL on the original GPU first and see what happens. Okay, so it took, I don't even know how long that was, like 11 minutes or something like that, to do an OpenCL test on the HD 4000, and we got a result of 879, okay? That's all the results for it. It's literally everything, wow. So, this card right here, the Vega 56 smokes metal tests. I'd actually run more metal tests, but I can't get the App Store to open because I can't get Mojave to update. I think the certificates are dead, so it won't authenticate. So it's not a big deal. I eventually fixed the install. But I wanted to really test metal and really can't right now with Geekbench 5 for some reason. But that is the score the HD 4000 got. Let's see what the Vega 56 does in OpenCL.
Yeah.
And this is why I didn't want to do an NVMe. It took the whole test about roughly a minute. And instead of 867 or whatever the score was, This is why you do an eGPU. 48,936 points. That is crazy. Particle physics was literally off the charts. That is amazing. So, it gives you a general idea of the big difference between the factory HD 4000 and a Vega, which it's kind of a given. I mean, it's a desktop card to begin with. HD 4000 is closer to a 2D accelerator. So, yeah. Let's run some Unigine Valley and see what happens. Okay, so I've decided to run the Unigine Valley benchmark on Extreme HD. Now, the HD 4000 will not like this at all. And I don't have an external display adapter. I don't know where it is, to run it on the big screen. But this will be running at 1080p, I think, at Extreme HD. And it's going to be comical to watch on the HD 4000, but let's do it anyway. It runs so bad, it's literally a slideshow. But I do want to know what the benchmark is like. The problem is, it runs so bad, I can't find the pointer. There it is. Okay, so we'll move it back down to the screen. There we go. And benchmark, this is going to be comical. We're running at 4 FPS right now. Benchmark. Max FPS, 3.6. Yeah, we're smoking it right here. 5 FPS. Awesome. So we'll just let this run. So, to interject here, I'm watching the CPU temperature right now. And the CPU temperature is at 100 degrees because the GPU in the CPU is basically cooking it right now. I'm not even sure if it's going to finish the benchmark. I know one thing, it's more than likely throttling right now. It scored a 153, minimum FPS 2.6 and max 6.3. That is awful. Okay, so we did the benchmark on the HD 4000. Let's set you up on the Vega 56. Now, of course, this won't be super fair because the Vega 56 is going to be running 1080p stretched across basically a 4K screen, which isn't going to be great for a benchmark test. I have a feeling it's going to be way different. And like I said, if a card from 2018 can't run maxed out on a test from 2013, we've got problems. So let's set you up here. And we're already running at 50 FPS. And this is maxed out. I mean, it could probably do better, but there's probably some bus bandwidth issues here, considering it's running through Thunderbolt 1. But, you know, let's run the test, see what happens. The card has already ramped up. But, I mean, we're running at 48 frames per second, roughly. And this is a big, huge difference. And there we go. It's a 2096 point score. The average frames per second was 50. And minimum was 23.3 and max was 77.5. It could have probably done better, but I mean, like I said, there's some bandwidth issues here, but it's still very respectable. The cards, fans are running pretty high, but it's still running at a pretty decent temperature. We're averaging about 75. It's just really impressive. So let's compare this to the other one just to see real quick, and then we'll wrap up the video. Alright, so I figured out it wasn't even running it at 1080p because, of course, the screen resolution on the system. This was running at its native resolution, of course, custom ultra, and as we saw, it scored 153 versus the other one, which was running at the 1080p and scored 2,096 points, which is insane. So yeah, let's start wrapping this up here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We've got an eGPU on the world's fastest mid-2012 13-inch unibody MacBook. This is awesome. I mean, I can't describe just how awesome this is. It's an amazing experience to have something this quick, it's this old. I mean, it's amazing. I think this would be an excellent gaming computer, which Macs and gaming computers don't really go hand in hand now, do they? But I think we could do some interesting stuff even in Windows. And no, I haven't even tried to boot this into Windows since we put the eGPU on it. I feel like we should. I don't know. It's up to you guys. Comment in the description below and see what we really want to do with this thing, because I'm still thinking about doing some video testing on rendering and stuff and seeing if this would still be a viable system to render on and do video stuff. That would be awesome to know. And I also think this would be really good at playing games like Grand Theft Auto 5 or even Red Dead Redemption 2 or something like that. Something that wasn't meant for this system in any way, shape, and form. I think it can do it. I think it would knock it out of the park. So if you guys would be interested in checking that out and figuring and seeing what it would do, let me know. I think we should come back to this system soon. We will be coming back to this system, but I would like to do it sooner than later. So let me know what you guys think. And don't forget, I do have a Patreon. If you'd like to support me, there'll be a link at the end of the video and also in the description below. And go check out the playlist on this system. Go look at the original video and stuff. See how far we've come, because we've come a far, long way. And we also have 2 other videos, the build video from Collin and the review video from Luke Miani and Collin. So yeah, it's awesome. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. This thing is an amazing system, and I feel like it needs more testing and more fun things done with it. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and this has been a Hrutkay Mods video.